This is every single thumbnail format on YouTube explained. The reality is that the difference between your video getting 1,000 views and 1,000,000 views is the thumbnail. So you want to come up with a thumbnail that works. And one of the best ways to do that is to play into common thumbnail formats that have worked in the past. Here's an example of this, where me and the team helped come up with a thumbnail for Nick Giovanni that was a 2 out of 10. Sadly, the 1 out of 10 was a video about Mr. Beast, which is hard to beat. But this thumbnail performed insanely well because we used common thumbnail formats to create it. But before we get into every single format and how you can use them, I'm Toby. I run a YouTube agency with my friends, and we've worked with some of YouTube's biggest creators. We've helped these creators get over 1.3 billion views, so I know a little bit about YouTube. Now, on YouTube, you have common formats you can play into to get more views. So I'm gonna go through every single one of these and how and when you should use them in your videos. Now, the first one is extreme. So typically, the most interesting aspect of a video will be at either ends of an extreme. If we take, for example, a random format, you have world's smallest and you have world's largest. Those are two ends of an extreme. You have the worst, you have the best, you have the craziest, you have the most disgusting, whatever it is, right? So typically the ends of the extreme is what does really well. And so we have examples of this where you have like jumping from space, which is an crazy extreme. You can't get more extreme than that. You have level 1 to 100 science experiments where we show the extreme, hands getting burned, and we show the level. This is the high end of level 100. You can't go past level 100. It's a high end of the spectrum. Or we have a visual crazy extreme where we show something like we're showing an earthquake happening on a court. And this format works really good for entertainment content. And you just want to take your topic and think, what are the natural extremes for this topic? What is the worst extreme and what is the best extreme? What is the smallest version of it and the largest version of it? And try and find one end or the other of the extreme and show that in your thumbnail. Now, the next is emotion. And this could be any type of emotion, but my favorite is humor. The reality is that if you can get an emotion out of viewers when they see your thumbnail, they are way more likely to click. And examples of this is funny clickbait, where we have a head going from normal to square, where we play into a sad emotion like a player dying, or where we clickbait in a hilarious emotion of showing a famous person being fat as a child. This works really well for more entertainment content that's in more listicle formats. But this can also work really well for entertainment content and even educational content if you play into pain points correctly. Now, the next is results and post action. So this is basically showing the desired end result of the viewer. So if they're trying to become really good at storytelling or really good at YouTube, you're going to show those desired results in the thumbnail. You're going to show the really good story arc you need to learn. You're going to show the desired results of getting views. Or for more entertainment-based content, you're going to show the end result or the post action, which is the end result is basketball getting stuck in the hoop, which is the end result of playing. Now, another format that works really, really well is symbolism. So we have, for example, you're not lazy, you just need a reason, with the guy pointing a gun at him. Such an extreme thing that's also very symbolistic. You're not actually going to shoot someone. Or, for example, EA is worse than you thought, and we're showing the company logo with devil horns, showing that they're very evil. Or the science of thinking, and we're actually showing humans thinking in the brain. It's very, obviously, it's not happening. It's symbolistic, but this can make for really, really interesting thumbnails, especially in the educational space. Now, one of the classics on YouTube is transformational thumbnails. A before and a after, basically showing progression in a specific element or character or thing. So we have this player going from unibrow to no unibrow. We have Mr. Beast going from fat to jacked. We have this video of going from fat to skinny with a workout. Transformation works really, really well. But the key here is you want it to be one specific element that's changing. Now, the next is volume. And this is one of my favorite formats. It's just showing an incredible amount of volume on the screen. You can see here with millions of donuts, filling an entire house, swimming in shade balls. You're showing an incredible amount of something. The more normal-ish or interesting that item is, the better. Now, the next one is mid-action. This is probably the most famous and most commonly used thumbnail format on YouTube. You're showing a middle action. You're showing a middle action, like in the process of an action happening. I think this is probably my favorite example from Mike Shake, is cutting through a dummy body, right? This is the middle action. He hasn't fully cut through it yet, so it's not post-action. It's not pre-action because he's already cut through it, so it's not before it cuts. Another example is right here, mid-action. He hasn't fallen yet, but he's in the process of falling. Or right here, he's in the process of stretching this food apart. This works really, really well because you're creating action. This format is really good for showing action or creating progression in the thumbnail visual, showing something interesting in the process of happening. Now, one of the more underappreciated and underrated concepts is pre-action. I really want to see more of this on YouTube. And you can really understand pre-action by just looking at this thumbnail. A guy about to fall onto a trampoline full of mousetraps. So you're like, oh, you have to click because it's like, oh, what happens when he hits them and falls? Pre-action. Another one that's done really, really well for Red Bull is showing the pre-action of like these two buddies doing some stupid jump. What's going to happen? Are they going to make it? Are they not? Are they going to fall? Are they going to crash? You're showing pre-action. Another one is this one right here. We have this pre-action of he's running, he's about to jump off, but he hasn't jumped off yet. It is pre-action. It's got 94 million views. Now, another format that I really like is the POV. This one's a bit harder to use. It's very situational, but you're basically just showing the point of view from the human eyes, right? And so this works really well for parkour. This works really well for learning stuff. This also works really well for documenting. There's been an increasing trend on YouTube of documenting processes and lifestyles versus teaching it, and showing the point of view of this one is a bit controversial because like, oh, you're not showing the point of view of a human, but it's like, no, we're showing the point of view of the viewer watching the person, or the point of view of them, of their life. So it's almost like instead of the camera coming from the human eyes experiencing it, it's more the camera's coming from like just being in the same space as the person, right? Another one that's extremely underrated that I've never seen people talk about on YouTube is chrono. This is showing progression over time. So you can see here we have, head, bigger body, or we have showing someone kind of moving over time, or showing motion over time. These are all ways of visually creating action in the thumbnail, creating movement in the thumbnail. This is really good for just displaying results over time, or showing an action as it's taking place. Really, really underrated thumbnail format that works really well. Another one is the question format. This works a bit better for educational videos, but it can work for entertainment too. So Veritasium is just the goat of these question format. You have like holding a question card. How do you escape? And then you click to find the answer, right? Or you have showing something crazy and how is this allowed with a question? Or we have, is meat bad for you? Question in the title and then question in the thumbnail. Now, the exact opposite of that is the answer. This is more the format where you ask the question in the title and then you give the answer in the thumbnail. So we have the classic, can you fix climate change? No, with a little, I think it's called a hyphen, or just expanding on no, but. So you're like, oh, what is that but? And then you click to find out. Or you are immune against every disease, which is a crazy thing to say. And then you have the here's why. And then like, oh, what is the here's why? They click. Or this one of my favorites. Most people don't know how to ride a bike. This bike proves it. You're showing the answer to your statement. Now, another one of the more famous formats on YouTube is the comparison. The before, after, the A/B, whatever you want to call it. You're basically showing change in two different things. So the difference between transformation and comparison is transformation is you're showing change in one specific thing. So the thing stays the same. Comparison is you're comparing or you're showing change in two different things. So great example of this, 12 levels of Beethoven, and we have the easy version versus the impossible version. So comparison is basically going to be a versus. As long as your thumbnail shows like a natural this versus that, it's going to be a comparison. So we have the largest star versus our sun. It's a comparison. It's a versus. Or we have, a $1 boat versus a $1 billion boat. It's a comparison. These do extremely well on YouTube. They do really well for all formats, honestly. They've worked well in entertainment. They've worked well in educational. You just want to take your topic and find the natural, like for example, the natural extremes, and then you just compare those natural extremes. Instead of showing only the thumbnail being one of the extremes, you can compare both ends of the spectrum, and that makes for a really good thumbnail. Now, the next one that's a bit underrated is reactions. The reality is that as humans, we are biologically wired to be appealed to faces. And when we see another human make a crazy face that we never see, it's really, really interesting. So here's an example. We have, famous person, really mad, flicking someone off. Really interesting. Rarely see that reaction. This is one of my favorite thumbnails I've seen in a long time. We have college students versus a fifth grader, and you have the fifth grader yawning like, oh, this is too easy. Such a good reaction. This is the reason people clicked on this video. It's such a good reaction that makes people go, how good is he? What happens? It makes you ask so many questions, which is the core philosophy of making a good thumbnail. It makes you curious. It makes you ask a question, and you click to get the answer. Whether that's entertainment, whether that's educational, it's the same thing. Another one here, riding the craziest roller coaster in England, and he has a crazy reaction, like, oh, what's going to happen? Why does he have this reaction? And then you click. Now, another classic that I really like, that I think should be used a bit more, is size. So it's just showing an extremely large scale version of something. So we have the world's largest chocolate. We have, the world's largest vehicle. Look how massive just the wheel of this vehicle is compared to a human. We're kind of showing size. We're showing scale with the human body, which is a really good thing. Which is a really good way of doing it. And then we have another example, massive lighter. It's got 30 million views, just showing like the world's biggest lighter or a giant lighter. Just massive things are interesting, especially when you take something that is like normal size. So like, let's say like, I don't know, a mic. It's normally this size, and then we make it 1,000 times the size. It's just, it's weird, it's bizarre, it's interesting. Another one that's been really trendy is more of the raw. This is more of setting the right expectations. With these sort of thumbnails, I really think the title carries more than the thumbnail, but you do want the thumbnail to show you in the process of saying something, right? So if you notice with all these people, they're all like kind of mouth open or in the process of like, they're saying something, like their hands are expressing, they're in the process of giving you information. This is very like to the point, raw information. And with a really, really strong title, this cooks. Now, another one that I don't see people talk about a lot is text. Text is actually one of the best ways to get people to click on a thumbnail. Just look at this thumbnail right here. The rainiest place on earth, it's indoors. Just the text right there, the text is what gets you to click. You're like, wait, what? How is the rainiest place on earth indoors? What the heck? And you click. But it's the text that made you click. Same thing here. The biggest myth in education, and you read this, the text gets you to click. Or how to edit so good your viewers get addicted to your content. Stop being boring. It's like, what? I'm boring? How am I boring? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I want the answers. How are my videos boring? I want those answers. And you click. This, again, really, really good for any format. Honestly, it works well for entertainment, for educational. The big thing here is you just want to find the right thing to say. So either look for patterns of words and format and like sentences that have worked well in the past, or just spend a lot of time like trying to figure out like interesting copy that could apply to like pain points of your viewer, or that could expand on an interesting thing that happened in your entertainment video. And finally, the last one is timeline. This is such a cool thumbnail format. You're basically showing extended amount of change in a specific thing, right? So you have, for example, easy, impossible. Or you have, you know, the timeline of AI taking over and what's going to happen. You show the different, like the scenario as it unfolds. Or you have, for example, showing the timeline of everything here. Everything's to come. You have this stage, and then you have the next 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 stage. So showing timeline is a really good way of just showing the whole process of what's to come. And this is just such a good way. And this works really, really well for informational videos. And when you're talking about more complex topics, or you have really interesting stories, and you want to show like, this is the full timeline of what's to come, and then create a really interesting, like, what the fuck detail in there, like a little snare of like, this is easy, this was almost impossible. And you're like, wait, what? How is that stage almost impossible, but everything else was easy? So just getting a really interesting way of getting people to click. So yeah, these are some of the most commonly used and most interesting thumbnail formats on YouTube. Next time you're stuck trying to come up with a thumbnail, just take a screenshot of this and just refer to this chart and be like, ooh, what are different formats I can play into to get views? And I guarantee if you do this consistently, your thumbnails are going to become really, really good, and your videos are going to get so many more views. There's so many different aspects of making a good thumbnail. If you want to learn a 2-minute secret that makes your thumbnails so much better and get way more views, click this video right here. I really recommend it. Nobody talks about that stuff. Peace.